This party is cheap and embarrassing, Tasha said loud enough for half the table to hear. Honestly, we'd be better off without you. For a second, I thought I had misheard her. Purple lights moved across the country club ballroom. Girls in satin dresses posed near the balloon arch, holding their phones high and laughing like the whole world had finally turned toward them. My stepdaughter, Brielle, stood in the middle of her friends in a pale rose dress, smiling the way 16-year-old girls smile when they believe the night belongs to them. I was standing beside the gift table with a plastic cup of ice water in my hand, feeling my wife's words sink into my chest like wet cement. Tasha wore the blue dress I had paid for 2 weeks earlier at Easton. Hair done that morning, nails too. Makeup soft enough to look effortless and expensive enough not to be. She always knew how to look like a happy wife and proud mother when a camera pointed in her direction. When there was no camera, the truth slipped out. Her sister Monique covered her mouth like she was shocked. Then she laughed anyway. One cousin stared down at his plate. I did not answer right away. That had always been my mistake. My name is Marcus Ellis. I'm 58 years old. I live outside Columbus, Ohio, and I own a small commercial landscaping company that started with one mower, one used trailer, and me knocking on doors until my knuckles felt bruised. For 12 years, I believed my job in that family was simple. Show up, pay the bills, keep the peace. Brielle was 4 when Tasha and I got married. Pink sneakers, 2 little puffs tied with yellow barrettes, scared of thunderstorms but too proud to say it. She used to stand at the kitchen doorway when I left for early jobs and ask, "Are you coming back for dinner, Marcus?" Always, I would say. She never really called me Dad, not in a steady way, once or twice when she was sleepy. A few times on handmade cards when she was too young to understand how adults could complicate a simple thing. Most days I was Marcus, so I learned not to ask for titles. I took what I could get. I went to recitals. I sat in urgent care when she broke her arm falling off her bike. I paid for braces, dance shoes, summer science camp, birthday dinners, school trips, and the custom cake sitting in the corner of that ballroom like a 3-tiered monument to my poor judgment. $27,863. That was the sweet 16 total by the time Tasha finished adding small touches. The country club outside Dublin, the DJ, the photographer, the catering, the balloon wall, the dress, the custom invitations, the dessert table, the cake with edible gold flakes nobody needed but everybody photographed. I told myself it was worth it because a girl only turned 16 once. That night I arrived early in my old Ford F-150. The rain had stopped, and the parking lot smelled like wet grass and fresh mulch. I carried boxes through the side entrance while Tasha stood near the doorway pointing. "Careful with that centerpiece, Marcus. Those were expensive." I wanted to say, "I know, I paid for them." Instead, I said, "I've got it." Around 6:30, Brielle came out in her dress. She hugged Tasha first, then she turned toward me. For one small second, I thought she might hug me too. Instead, she smiled and said, "Thanks, Marcus. It looks good." That should have been enough. I tried to make it enough. By 8 o'clock, the room was full. The photographer posed Brielle with friends, then with Tasha's family, then with cousins who had driven in from Dayton and Cleveland. Nobody asked me to step into a picture. I stayed near the edge of the room with my ice water and made sure the catering manager had the final payment envelope. A man learns where he belongs in a room when nobody has to say it out loud. I was watching Brielle laugh when Tasha came up beside me. "The flowers are wrong," she said. "Wrong how?" "They look like what you picked. They are the ones from the invoice." "No, they look cheaper. People are having a good time. The DJ is terrible. He's got them dancing." "That's not the point." My right knee throbbed from hauling decoration bins, but I kept my voice low. "Brielle is happy," I said. "That is the point." Then Monique walked over with a glass of white wine. "Everything okay?" Tasha did not hesitate. "No. This is what happens when I trust Marcus to handle things. He hears special and gives me church basement." Monique laughed, not loud, just enough. Something inside me went still. "Tasha," I said quietly. She turned with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "What?" "I'm just being honest. You do not need to do this here. Oh, please do not act wounded. I paid for exactly what you asked for. A few heads turned. Tasha's face changed. She leaned closer, but somehow her voice got louder. Paid for it. You want a medal for paying for your family? No. I'm telling you, we would be better off without you. The table went quiet. Not the whole room. The teenagers kept dancing. The DJ kept smiling like a man trying to survive a long night. The lights kept sliding over the walls in purple and blue. But the adults near us heard it. I looked down at my cup. The ice had melted into cloudy little pieces. My hand was not shaking. I always thought reaching my limit would look like anger. Instead, it felt calm. Tired, but calm. I set the cup on the gift table. The plastic made a soft tap against the wood. Tasha crossed her arms, waiting for the apology. She thought this was the part where I swallowed it, remembered Brielle, and decided peace mattered more than pride. I looked past Tasha. Brielle was watching us. Her smile was gone. For a second, she looked 4 years old again, standing in a kitchen doorway asking if I was coming back. That almost broke me. Almost. I turned back to Tasha. Then you can start paying your own bills, I said. Monique's mouth opened. Tasha blinked. What did you just say? You heard me. Marcus, do not you dare walk away from me. I picked up my keys. Enjoy the party. Tasha followed me 3 steps. You're making a scene. I stopped and looked back. No, I said, I'm leaving one. Outside, the air was cool and damp. My Ford sat between 2 shiny SUVs, old and honest and paid for. I stood there for a moment and looked through the country club windows. Purple lights kept moving. People were still dancing. The party I paid for went on without me. Then my phone buzzed. Tasha, I let it ring. It stopped, then started again. Then came a text from her, then one from Monique, then Tasha again. I turned the phone face down and started the truck. For 12 years, I had answered every call, fixed every problem, covered every shortage, swallowed every insult before it could turn into a fight. That night, for the first time, I drove away. I left them sitting in a beautiful room under rented lights, surrounded by flowers and cake and music, with the bill already paid and the man who paid it gone. I got home a little after 11. The house was dark except for the small light above the stove. For years, walking through that front door meant hearing the television, Tasha talking on the phone, or Brielle laughing upstairs with friends. That night, all I heard was the refrigerator humming. I slipped off my dress shoes and rubbed my right knee before climbing the 2 steps into the kitchen. Standing all evening at the country club had done it no favors. I was not hungry. I filled the coffee maker anyway. Outside, a light spring rain tapped against the kitchen window. My old Ford sat in the driveway with streaks of water running down the hood. I had been meaning to fix the driver's side mirror for almost 8 months. There was always something else that seemed more important. The coffee finished around midnight. I wrapped both hands around the mug and stared into the backyard. The Weber grill sat under its faded cover near the patio. I had not used it much lately. Tasha always complained that charcoal smoke got into her hair. It's messy, she would say. So I stopped inviting neighbors over. Funny how many little pieces of your own life disappear without you noticing. My phone buzzed again. Tasha, 5 missed calls, 3 voicemails, 9 text messages. The first one read, "Where are you?" The next, "You embarrassed me." Then, "Come back before people start talking." After that, the tone changed. Brielle is crying. I closed my eyes. That one almost worked. Almost. Because I was not angry with Brielle. I never had been. I was angry with myself. At 4:30 in the morning, I gave up trying to sleep. That had been my wake-up time for most of my adult life anyway. Landscaping does not wait for a man to feel emotionally ready. Grass grows. Contracts start early. Crews need assignments before the sun gets high. I pulled on an old sweatshirt, brewed another pot of coffee, and carried my laptop to the kitchen table. For years, I had avoided looking too closely at our finances. Not because I did not know where the money went, because I did. I simply did not want to admit how much of my life had disappeared one automatic payment at a time. I logged into my bank account, the screen filled with familiar names. Mortgage, still current. I was not touching that. Electric, water, gas, necessary. Those stayed. Then came the others. Family phone plan, SUV insurance, Tasha's SUV payment, boutique charge account, streaming services, warehouse club family membership, premium gym membership, dance competition extras, vacation payment plan, monthly allowance transferred into Tasha's checking account. I kept scrolling. Then I saw the Sweet 16 payments, country club, DJ, photographer, cake, flowers, invitations, decorations, dress, final total, $2,763. I leaned back slowly, not because of the number, because every single payment had come from my personal business distributions. Not $1 had come from Tasha. I whispered something I had not admitted out loud before. What have I been doing? The answer came immediately. Trying to buy peace. I picked up my phone and called my older sister, Jeanette. Everybody in the family called her Auntie John, whether they were related to her or not. She had worked at a credit union for 32 years, raised 2 sons, buried 1 husband, and could look at a bank statement the way a pastor looks at a scripture. She answered on the second ring. Marcus, I'm sorry. I know it's early. She was quiet for half a second. You never call before sunrise unless something is wrong. I looked at the banking screen. I walked out. I heard. That surprised me. You heard? Monique posted half the party online before midnight. People notice when the husband disappears from the videos. I let out a tired laugh. I guess they do. What happened? I told her everything. Not dramatically, just the facts. Tasha's complaints, Monique's laugh, the comment, my leaving, the silence afterward. When I finished, Jeanette did not speak for several seconds. Finally, she said, Can I ask you something? Sure. If Tasha apologized today, would anything actually change? I looked back at the payment history. No. You know why? Because we'd be back here in 6 months. Exactly. Jeanette knew numbers. More importantly, she knew habits. Marcus, she continued, you do not have a spending problem. You have a boundary problem. That one stung because she was right. I do not want to hurt Brielle. I know. I've been in her life since she was 4. I know that too. I do not want her thinking I'm abandoning her. Jeanette sighed softly. Paying for everything is not the same as loving someone. I did not answer. Listen carefully, she said. I grabbed a notepad. Do not touch the joint checking account. I wrote it down. Do not stop paying the mortgage. Another note. Keep the utilities current. Okay. If health insurance goes through your policy, do not cancel it without talking to an attorney. I won't. But she said, you absolutely can stop paying for luxuries. I looked at the list. Authorized user credit card? Yes. Streaming services if they're in my name? Yes. Gym membership? Yes. The boutique account? Jeanette actually laughed. Marcus, why are you financing boutique shopping? I honestly do not know anymore. Neither do I. Then her voice became serious again. Document everything. And before you make any major move, call a divorce attorney. The word divorce sat in the kitchen like an extra person at the table. When Tasha and I got married 12 years earlier, I honestly believed it would be forever. I was not sitting there planning revenge. I was not trying to leave anyone with nothing. I was simply realizing I could not keep pretending nothing had happened. Jeanette softened her voice. You have spent years protecting everybody else. I thought that was what husbands do. It is part of what husbands do, she said, but they are not supposed to disappear while doing it. We stayed on the phone another 20 minutes. By the time we hung up, the eastern sky had begun turning pale. I made one more cup of coffee. Then I opened another browser tab. I canceled Tasha's authorized user credit card. The confirmation screen appeared. Your request has been processed successfully. One click. That was all it took. Next came the boutique account. Canceled. Streaming subscriptions? Canceled. Premium gym membership? Canceled. Monthly allowance? Deleted. Warehouse club family add-on? Removed. I did not touch the mortgage. I did not touch the utilities. I did not touch Brielle's health insurance. I was not trying to punish anyone. I was simply removing myself from expenses that had quietly become expectations. By 8:30, my phone buzzed again. A text from Tasha. "You'll apologize tomorrow." I stared at the words for several seconds. 12 years earlier, I would have. I would have bought flowers, taken her to dinner, found some way to convince myself I had misunderstood everything. Instead, I locked the phone without replying. For the first time in a very long time, I was not asking how to make everyone else comfortable. I was asking what it would take to respect myself. By Monday morning, Tasha still believed I would come crawling back. I knew that because of the flowers. Not flowers she sent me, flowers she had delivered to my office. Andre Wallace carried them through my door with one eyebrow raised. Andre had managed crews for me for almost 9 years. He knew better than to ask too much too fast. "They're colorful," he said. The bouquet looked expensive. Bright roses, white lilies, and a little card tucked in the middle. I opened it. "Let's stop acting like children. Come home." "Tasha." I smiled without meaning to. Not because it was sweet, because she had completely missed the point. She thought I wanted an apology. What I wanted was respect. I handed the card to Andre. "Can you take these to New Hope Baptist? I think they still send flowers to the nursing home ministry." "You got it." He paused at the doorway. "You okay?" "I will be." He nodded once. I figured. Andre had seen me shovel snow, climb retaining walls, negotiate contracts, and spend entire Saturdays fixing irrigation systems because a church could not afford emergency rates. He had also seen me answer Tasha's calls no matter what I was doing. This was new, very new. Around lunchtime, my phone rang. Tasha again. This time I answered. "So," she said without saying hello, "are you done with this little performance?" "I'm at work." "So am I." There was a pause. "Everyone keeps asking where you are." "I've been at work." "You know what I mean." "I do." Her voice softened. "Marcus, Brielle is upset." "I know. She thinks you're angry with her." "I'm not." "Then come home." "I do not think that is a good idea. You cannot seriously be throwing away 12 years over one argument." I looked through my office window. 2 crew trucks were pulling out for afternoon jobs, trailers rattling behind them. "No," I said quietly. "It was not one argument." She did not answer. "It was 12 years of believing I would always absorb whatever happened." "That is ridiculous." "Is it? You've changed." I took a slow breath. "No, Tasha, I finally stopped pretending." She hung up. Tuesday brought another strategy. This time, Tasha texted pictures. One showed Brielle sitting at the kitchen island with her head resting on her arms. Another showed an untouched dinner plate. "Look what you're doing to her." I stared at the screen for a long time. My chest tightened. I remembered a little girl sitting in that same kitchen years earlier, coloring dinosaurs while I grilled hamburgers outside. "Marcus," she had yelled through the screen door. "Can I flip one?" "You can try." She dropped the spatula because it was too heavy, then laughed so hard she almost fell off the step. That little laugh had made every long workday worth it. I closed the photo. Tasha knew exactly which memories could weaken me. She just did not realize something else had changed. I was not confusing guilt with love anymore. Wednesday afternoon, Andre knocked on my office door carrying a thick folder. "You asked me to pull the company cash flow." "Thanks." He sat across from my desk. I also highlighted the owner distributions. I opened the report. Rows of numbers stretched across the pages. Business income, payroll, equipment, fuel, taxes, then my withdrawals. Every month, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times. I frowned. "I took that much?" Andre nodded. "I always assumed you had another investment." "No." I kept reading. He pointed to one section. "Remember when we postponed replacing truck 3? "Yeah. We had the money. So why didn't we?" He looked uncomfortable. "You transferred almost $23,000 to your personal account that week." I remembered exactly where it had gone. Sweet 16 deposit, dress, photographer, another page. We skipped the new mower. Tasha wanted to book the family vacation. Another page. Office roof repairs, Brielle's dance competition. Another page. I leaned back in my chair. My knee surgery consultation. Andre looked surprised. You postponed that because of money? I said I would do it next year. He did not say anything. Neither of us needed to. The truth was sitting on the desk between us. I had spent years delaying repairs, not just on equipment, on myself. You know something? Andre said. What? I always thought you just liked working. I do. No. He shook his head. I think you work because you believe slowing down would disappoint somebody. His words landed harder than he probably intended. Because he was right. Every Saturday contract, every emergency landscaping job, every 12-hour summer day in 90-degree Ohio heat, I told myself I was providing. Maybe I had been, but somewhere along the way, I had also become the machine that kept everyone else's lifestyle running. Thursday afternoon, Tasha called again. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. She sounded different, calmer, but only on the surface. I just left Harper Lane Boutique. I waited. My card was declined. I know. Marcus, I removed you as an authorized user. You embarrassed me in front of my friends. I closed my office door. No, Tasha. It was humiliating. I stopped paying for things that were never my responsibility. They were our responsibility. Were they? My handbag was not hurting anybody. It was not helping anybody either. She let out a frustrated laugh. I cannot believe you are keeping score. I'm not. It sure feels like it. I looked around my office. The walls held old project photos, church landscaping, office parks, community gardens, years of work. I spent 12 years making sure you never had to think about money, I said, so I forgot to ask whether you appreciated any of it. She was silent. Finally, she said, You're being cruel. No. I looked out at my old Ford parked beside the building. The paint had faded. The driver's mirror still needed fixing. I had postponed it again because something else always seemed more important. I'm being honest. Before she could answer, I heard another voice in the background. Mom, Brielle, who are you talking to? Tasha covered the phone, but not completely. Marcus, a pause. Then Brielle asked a question that made my heart stop. What does he mean he paid for everything? The line went completely silent. Tasha did not answer her. She simply ended the call. I sat there staring at the phone. For the first time since the party, I realized something important. Tasha could keep arguing with me. She could call me petty. She could tell people I was having a midlife crisis, that I had chosen money over family, that I was punishing them because my pride got bruised. Maybe she believed every word. Maybe she had to. But she could not keep the truth away from Brielle forever. Eventually, every teenager starts asking questions. And once those questions begin, the answers have a way of finding them. I did not hear from Brielle for nearly a week. That hurt more than I expected. Not because I thought she owed me anything. Because silence leaves too much room for other people's stories. I imagined Tasha telling her I was having some kind of breakdown, that I had walked out because I did not care, that I wanted everyone to suffer, that the money mattered more to me than she did. Meanwhile, life kept moving. Every morning I was up before sunrise making coffee in a kitchen that felt too quiet. Then I headed to the shop, checked on crews, and spent my days visiting commercial properties around Columbus. The grass kept growing. Sprinkler systems still broke. Church parking lots still needed mulch before Sunday services. Funny how the world does not stop just because your own does. Late one Thursday afternoon, Andre walked into my office with a stack of signed contracts. We landed the Westerville Medical Complex. I smiled. That's a good one. It is. He hesitated. You should celebrate. I'll settle for getting home before dark. He laughed. Baby steps. That evening, I drove past the neighborhood where Tasha and Brielle still lived. Not on purpose. It was simply the quickest way home. The porch light was on. Brielle's bicycle leaned against the garage exactly where she always left it. For one foolish second, I almost turned into the driveway. Then I kept driving. Some doors need to stay closed until everyone inside is ready to open them. The next afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was not Tasha. It was Brielle. Just one text. Are you at work? I stared at it, then answered. Yes, everything okay? Nearly 5 minutes passed. Finally, another message appeared. I just had a question. Go ahead. The typing bubble came and went 3 different times, then disappeared. No message ever came. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. Whatever questions she wanted to ask, she was not ready yet. Brielle was home alone the following Monday. Tasha had picked up an extra shift at the boutique. At least that is what I learned later. Brielle was not looking for secrets. She was looking for a charger. Mine. I had always kept an extra laptop charger in the small desk drawer in the home office because I constantly forgot to bring one back from work. She opened the wrong drawer first. Inside were folders neatly labeled insurance, taxes, home, medical. She almost closed it. Then she noticed an envelope with her own name written across it. Not because it was hidden, because I had forgotten it was there. Inside were receipts from years earlier. The first one was from Nationwide Children's Hospital. 8 years old. Broken arm. Insurance covered most of it. The rest had been paid the following week. She remembered the accident, falling off her bike near the mailbox, crying because the cast was blue instead of purple. Me sleeping in the hospital chair after Tasha went home to shower and change clothes. She did not remember the bill. Kids are not supposed to. Underneath was another receipt. Orthodontics, monthly payments for braces, then summer science camp, dance lessons, recital costumes, school trip deposit, then the Sweet 16 invoice, venue, photography, catering, cake, decorations, dress, final payment processed, almost $28,000. Brielle sat down slowly in my old office chair. She had probably expected to find one receipt, maybe two. Instead, she found 12 years. In another drawer sat an old shoebox. The lid was not even taped shut. She opened it. Construction paper. Father's Day cards she had made in elementary school. A crayon drawing of 3 stick figures standing beside a grill. Ticket stubs from middle school band concerts. A program from her first dance recital. Dozens of birthday cards. She picked one up. Inside, written in uneven 10-year-old handwriting, were words she had completely forgotten. Thank you for being my bonus dad. The paper shook in her hands. There was another card. Thanks for always coming to my shows. Another. Love you. No fancy speeches, just honest words from a little girl who had not yet learned that adults sometimes rewrite history. When Brielle finally called me that evening, I was standing in line at Kroger buying hamburger buns and charcoal. I answered on the second ring. Hi. Her voice sounded small. Hi. Long silence. She stopped. You do not have to say anything, I told her. I found some things. I figured you might. Another pause. Were those all real? What things? The hospital bill. Yes. The braces. Yes. The party. Yes. She swallowed hard enough for me to hear it. You paid all of it. I did. Why didn't you ever tell me? I looked around the grocery store. People were comparing cereal prices. A little boy was asking for cookies. Life kept moving. Because none of that was your burden. You let Mom say, her voice trailed off. I was not interested in keeping score. Her breathing became uneven. I wrote those cards. You did. I do not even remember. I do. She started crying, not loudly, just enough that I could hear her trying to stay quiet. I'm sorry. You do not have to apologize tonight. But I do. Brielle, I said, and waited until she answered. Yeah? You were a child. She did not speak again. Before hanging up, she whispered something that stayed with me. I do not know what's true anymore. Neither of us slept well that night. 3 days later, Tasha walked across the street carrying a plate of cookies. Jeanette was planting flowers along her front porch. My sister lived 2 streets over from our house, close enough to know everyone's business and old enough to pretend she did not. Tasha, Jeanette said politely, I thought I'd bring these over. That's kind of you. Tasha smiled the same smile she wore at church when she wanted people to think everything in her house was covered in scripture and good manners. I've just been having such a difficult time. Jeanette nodded without saying much. Marcus has completely abandoned us financially. Jeanette set down her gardening gloves. Has he? He canceled everything. He just snapped after Brielle's party. I'm sorry to hear that. Tasha seemed encouraged. He's trying to make me look helpless. Jeanette leaned against the porch railing. Can I ask you something? Of course. Who paid your mortgage last month? Tasha blinked. Well, who paid for Brielle's Sweet 16? I mean, who pays the insurance on your SUV? Tasha's smile disappeared. That is not the point. Jeanette's voice stayed calm. I was only asking because you said he abandoned you. Just then, old Mr. Whitaker from 2 houses down slowed his lawnmower after hearing the conversation. Tasha noticed. Her face turned red. She mumbled something about needing to get home, grabbed the untouched cookies, and walked away faster than she had arrived. Jeanette watched her leave without another word. Sometimes the simplest questions are impossible to answer. The next evening, Brielle overheard her mother talking on the phone in the kitchen. Tasha did not know she was standing in the hallway. If Marcus thinks he can make me look like a fool, Tasha said through clenched teeth, just wait until the 4th of July cookout. Brielle stood perfectly still. She looked toward the hallway where my old office door remained half open. Then she looked back toward her mother. For the first time in her 16 years, she realized those two doors could not both lead to the truth. The 4th of July cookout was the last place I wanted to be. I almost texted Brielle that morning to tell her I could not make it. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then another message came in. Please come. I need to hear the truth with everybody there. I read it 3 times. Not please defend yourself. Not please forgive mom. Just I need to hear the truth. So I put on a clean navy polo shirt, grabbed a tray of hamburger buns from Kroger, and drove my old Ford across town. My knee complained every time I pressed the brake. The radio played old R&B I barely heard. When I pulled into Tasha's cousin's driveway, the yard was already full. Little American flags lined the walkway. Kids chased each other with sparklers they were not supposed to have yet. Someone had a portable speaker playing music near the garage. The smell of charcoal, ribs, baked beans, and hot pavement drifted through the warm Ohio afternoon. Normal. It looked completely normal. Funny how the hardest days often do. I spotted Jeanette first. She gave me a small nod. Nothing dramatic, just enough to say, you are not walking into this alone. Andre was there too, invited months earlier by one of Tasha's cousins because our landscaping company had done work for their office building. He looked a little surprised to see me, then walked over anyway. You sure you want to do this? He asked quietly. No. Then why are you here? I promised, Brielle. He understood. We both looked toward the patio. Brielle was helping set out potato salad and baked beans. She looked older than she had just a few weeks before. Not because she had turned 16, but because worry ages people. She saw me. For a second, I thought she might walk over. Instead, she gave me a small, uncertain smile. I smiled back. That was enough, at least for now. Dinner had not even started when Tasha made her move. She waited until most of the adults had gathered under the shade trees with paper plates in their hands. Then she sighed loudly. I never thought Marcus would abandon us like this. Conversation slowed. I've had to handle everything by myself, she continued. He cut us off just because we had one disagreement. A couple of relatives frowned at me. One aunt shook her head quietly. Tasha looked around the circle. I honestly do not know what happened to him. Nobody spoke. She took that as encouragement. He embarrassed me. He embarrassed Brielle. Then he just stopped acting like a husband. I stood beside the grill with a bottle of water in my hand. I did not interrupt. I did not defend myself. I did not even move. Jeanette finally set down her glass of iced tea. Tasha, what? Can I ask you something? Tasha folded her arms. Sure. Jeanette smiled politely. Which bills did Marcus stop paying that were actually his responsibility? Silence. Tasha blinked. I do not understand. I think you do. Jeanette's voice stayed calm. You have told everyone he abandoned you financially. That's right. So tell us. She counted slowly on her fingers. Which mortgage payment did he miss? Tasha said nothing. Which utility was disconnected? Nothing. Did he cancel Brielle's health insurance? No, but did he stop paying for the house? No. The SUV insurance? Tasha looked away. No. Jeanette nodded. Then maybe explain exactly what he stopped paying. The yard became strangely quiet. Even the children seemed farther away. Tasha cleared her throat. He canceled things that mattered. What things? My boutique account. Nobody answered. My gym membership. Still nothing. The streaming services. A teenage cousin looked confused and muttered, "That's abandonment?" His mother nudged him to be quiet. Tasha's face reddened. "You're twisting everything." "No," Jeanette replied gently. "I'm asking simple questions." Tasha turned toward me. "Are you really going to let her attack me?" I finally spoke. "I am not asking anyone to attack you. You've turned everyone against me. I have not said a word." She pointed at me. "You planned this." Before I could answer, Andre stepped forward. "If I may." Tasha looked irritated. "What?" He glanced at me. I nodded once. "Only the facts. Nothing more." "I manage Marcus's company," Andre said. "I also handle the financial reports." He kept his voice steady. "The Sweet 16 payments came from Marcus's personal distributions." No one interrupted. "He continued paying the mortgage after leaving. He continued paying utilities. He maintained health insurance. He only stopped paying discretionary expenses that were solely in his name." That was it. No speech. No accusation. Just facts. Facts have a funny way of making arguments shrink. Tasha looked around desperately. "That's private information." Andre nodded. "It would have stayed private." He glanced toward me. "Until you made it public again." Silence. Brielle stood up so suddenly her folding chair tipped backward. Everybody turned. She looked at her mother. "Is it true?" Tasha swallowed. "What? Did Marcus pay for everything?" "I paid too." "Mom." Her voice shook. "The party." Silence. "My dance lessons." Silence. "My braces." Silence. "When I broke my arm." Tasha looked down at the grass. "We were married." "That's not what I asked." Brielle had tears in her eyes now. "Did he pay for those things?" Finally, barely above a whisper, Tasha said, "Yes." No one moved. The only sound came from burgers sizzling on the grill behind me. A breeze pushed the little American flags back and forth along the fence. Brielle slowly turned toward me. "I found the cards." I nodded. "I know." "You kept all of them." "I did." Her face crumpled. "I thought—" She stopped. "I thought you were just there." Those 6 words hurt more than Tasha's insult at the party because they were honest. Children do not always notice who keeps the lights on, who skips appointments, who works weekends, who says yes every time someone else needs something. I walked toward her slowly. My knee reminded me of every year I had postponed taking care of it. When I reached her, I did not hug her. I did not know if she wanted that. Instead, I simply said, "You were a kid." She wiped her eyes. "I should have known." "No." I shook my head. "Kids should not have to read bills to know who loves them." She started crying, really crying this time. "I'm sorry, Marcus." "I know. I really am. I know." She stepped forward then. Not a full embrace, just enough to wrap one arm around me for a few seconds. It was awkward. It was hesitant. It was real. Tasha looked around the yard as if searching for someone to rescue her. No one spoke. No one celebrated. There was no applause, just quiet. Heavy, uncomfortable quiet. She finally broke it. "So now everyone thinks I'm the villain?" Jeanette answered before anyone else could. "No." She looked Tasha directly in the eyes. "I think everyone finally has the whole story." Tasha grabbed her purse. Without another word, she walked toward her SUV. The engine started a few moments later. Then she drove away. Nobody tried to stop her. That evening, after the cookout ended, I sat in my truck for several minutes before driving home. My phone buzzed. A message from Tasha. "You won this round, but you still owe me half." I stared at the screen. Months earlier, I would have argued, explained, defended myself. Instead, I forwarded the message directly to my attorney. Then I set the phone on the passenger seat, started the engine, and headed home. Not because I had won, because for the first time in years, I understood the difference between ending an argument and ending a pattern. People think revenge feels exciting, like fireworks, like winning. It does not. Most mornings it feels like making coffee in a quiet kitchen and remembering there is only one mug to wash. By early October, the divorce was almost finished. The leaves around Columbus had started turning orange and gold, and the mornings carried that cool Ohio air that always made my knee ache a little more. I finally scheduled the orthopedic appointment I had postponed for years. The doctor looked over my x-rays and smiled in the patient way doctors do when they know exactly what they are about to say. "So," he said, "how long have you been ignoring this?" I laughed. "Longer than I should have. You've still got good options." "I know." As I walked back to my truck, I realized something. For years, I had convinced myself there was never enough time to take care of my own health. The truth was simpler. I had always put myself at the bottom of my own list. That list had finally changed. The divorce itself was not dramatic. No screaming, no slam doors, just paperwork, meetings, signatures, and two people finally saying out loud what had been true for years. Tasha asked for more financial support than my attorney believed was reasonable. Fortunately, numbers do not have feelings. They simply tell the truth. My attorney laid everything out clearly. The mortgage had remained current the entire time. Utilities had never been interrupted. Health insurance had stayed in place. Every canceled expense had been voluntary, not legally required. Tasha had also returned to full-time work at the boutique several weeks earlier. She was capable of supporting herself. That mattered. When we walked out of the courthouse after one hearing, my attorney looked at me. "You know," she said, "most people spend more energy trying to punish each other." I never wanted to punish Tasha. "I believe you. I just could not keep pretending everything was normal." She smiled. "There is a difference." There really was. Business slowly settled into its usual rhythm. The Westerville Medical Complex became one of our best accounts. Andre stopped by my office one afternoon carrying 2 cups of coffee. He sat down without saying much. "You look different." "I do." "You seem—" He searched for the word. "Lighter." I thought about it. "I still miss what I hoped my family would be." "I know. But I do not miss wondering whether I'm appreciated." He grinned. "That's progress." I laughed. "I'll take it." Before leaving, Andre glanced through the office window toward my truck. "So when are you finally fixing that side mirror?" I smiled. "Already ordered the part." "About time." It was a small thing, but somehow fixing an old truck I had neglected for years felt symbolic. Some repairs are about a lot more than vehicles. A few weeks later, I received a text from Brielle. "Do you have time Saturday afternoon?" I answered almost immediately. "Sure. Can I stop by?" "Of course." Saturday arrived cool and sunny. I spent the morning cleaning the patio and uncovering the old Weber grill. I had not realized how much dust had collected on it. The grill looked older. So did I. But both of us still worked. Just after 2, I heard a car pull into the driveway. It was not Tasha's SUV. It was a small, used Honda Civic. Brielle climbed out carrying a white bakery box. She looked nervous, older somehow. She had started classes at the local community college a few weeks earlier and was working weekends at a neighborhood bakery to help pay for books. Seeing that made me oddly proud, not because she had to work, because she wanted to. She walked up the driveway slowly. "Hi." "Hi." She held out the bakery box. "I brought cupcakes." "You did not have to." "I wanted to." I smiled. "Come on in." The house still looked mostly the same, just quieter. She looked around the living room. "I forgot how many plants you have. They're easier to take care of than people." She laughed. A real laugh. I had not heard one from her in a long time. We sat at the kitchen table eating cupcakes that were honestly a little too sweet. Finally, she reached into her backpack. "I have something." She handed me a small envelope. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Hers. Inside was a simple folded card. Nothing fancy. No glitter. No expensive stationery. Just a plain card from the grocery store. It read, "Thank you for still showing up." I stared at those 6 words for a long time. Then I stood, walked into my home office, and opened the bottom drawer. The old shoebox was still there. Inside were all the childhood cards she had made over the years. I carefully placed the new one on top. When I closed the lid, it felt less like ending a chapter and more like starting a different one. I returned to the kitchen. Brielle was looking out the window toward the backyard. "I've been thinking," she said. "About what?" I spent a long time believing whoever talked the loudest had to be right. She looked down. I do not think that anymore. I nodded. Life has a way of teaching that lesson. I'm still figuring things out with Mom. You do not have to choose between loving your mother and seeing the truth. She looked relieved. I was hoping you would say that. I mean it, she smiled. I know. That evening after Brielle left, I lit a chimney full of charcoal. Soon the familiar smell drifted across the backyard. A couple of neighbors wandered over carrying folding chairs. Jeanette brought potato salad. Andre showed up with hot dogs. Someone turned on an old baseball game over a portable radio. Nobody cared whether the burgers were perfectly round. Nobody took professional photographs. Nobody complained that the decorations were not elegant enough. We simply ate, talked, and laughed. The sun slowly disappeared behind the trees. I stood beside my old Weber grill, flipping burgers with the same metal spatula I had owned for years. My knees still hurt. Probably always would. Life had not suddenly become perfect. Some scars stay, but they stop controlling you. As I looked around that backyard, I realized something that had taken me nearly 12 years to understand. The people who truly value you rarely measure your worth by what you spend. They notice whether you show up, whether you keep your word, whether you treat them with kindness. Everything else is just noise. Getting older has taught me that protecting your peace is not selfish. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself and for the people around you is stop rescuing others from the consequences of taking you for granted.